Hello soulmates, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to draft the pattern for this beautiful funnel corset, which is an inspiration from Precious Apparel. So if this tutorial is one which you are interested in, please join us while we get started. And if this is your first time of seeing our channel, thank you for stopping by. Please ensure to subscribe to our channel and leave your notification bell turned on so you can always get notified each time we upload new videos. So now let's get started. Okay, so on my pattern paper, I went ahead to draw a straight line at the top, which is my starting line and my shoulder line. I draw my bust point line, waistline, hip line, and then from my waistline I came down by 5 inches, which is my corset line. You can actually come down by 4 inches, it's still fine, but I want my own to be a bit longer. So after taking this measurement, I came to the shoulder line and I marked my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'm working with 7 inches. I also marked 3 inches as my neck width, and I came down also from the center front by 3 inches, which is my neck depth. Then from the shoulder point where I marked, I came down by 1 inch and I connected it to the 3 inches width I marked for my shoulder slope. Then from the neck depth, I also connected it with the neck width for my neck curve. Then now I'm going to get my armhole depth, which I did my bust measurement divided by 6 by 1.5, which I have 7 inches. So from the shoulder slope where I came down by 1 inch, I measured 7 inches and I'm connecting that with a straight line. So from that point, I'm going to mark a straight horizontal line, which is going to be my chest line. After doing that, I labeled it. So now I'm going to get my armhole measurement. So for my armhole depth, I'm going to divide it by 2, which is from the center. Then I'm from the center point, I'm going to come in by 0.5. Then I'm going to measure my bust circumference divided by 4 and mark it on my chest line. Then connect these curves together just like I did right now. I'm going to be using my pencil to trace this line because I am going to be getting another armhole measurement at the end of the day, so I'm not going to be using my marker to make this visible because we are going to clean it off. So now I'm going to take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 and I'm going to mark it on my bust point, under bust, waist, and then the hip measurement, and I'm going to connect it with a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to come to the under bust line and I'm going to take in 1 inch on both sides. After marking 1 inch on both sides, that'll be 2 inches, which is what I'll be using for my dart. So I'm going to come with my curve and connect it to the bust point, just like I'm doing right now. So because I'm taking 2 inches for my dart, I'm going to also measure 2 inches from the hip line, from the bust span line, that is the nipple to nipple line I marked earlier. So after marking the same 2 inches, I'm going to connect the first 1 inch point towards the center front to the 2 inches point I marked on the hip line, just like I did now. And then the second point where I mark 1 inch towards the side front, I'm going to connect it to the line of the bust span, that is the nipple to nipple line I drew earlier. This is to ensure that I'm taking 2 inches dart all round. So after doing this, I'm going to use my marker to make it very visible. Okay, after doing that, I just took my eraser to erase the previous line that I drew because I will no longer be working with that line. And then after doing that, I came to my shoulder and I took the midpoint just like this. And after doing that, I connected it to the bust point with a straight line. This straight line I'm drawing is to serve as a guide for me to be able to measure my overbust when I want to. So for my overbust, I want it to be 2 inches above my chest line. That is how covered I want it to be. You can actually use 1.5, you can use 1 inch depending on how you want it to be. So after doing that, I connected it with a straight line over there. Then after that, I came to my hip line to take my body measurement. I'm just going to go ahead and impute my body measurement. So I did my hip measurement divided by 4, and then I added the 2 inches dart that I've taken from here. I added it to it. Same thing, I came to my waistline and I took my waist measurement divided by 4 and added the 2 inches dart which is there. So notice I also went ahead to add half an inch because I'm going to take a dart at that waist side. This is to help tighten the waist a bit. But I took that dart because I was also going to have an opening at that side, so I added 2.5 inches, which is for the darts. That is the two darts that I'm going to be taking instead of 1 inches. So I went ahead to connect them together, the waist to the hip, and then from the waist I connected a straight line to meet the chest line. So after doing this, now I'm going to be taking my bust dart. This bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to front measurement and your shoulder to back measurement. That is shoulder to waist of your front and your shoulder to waist of your back. And the difference in mine is 1.5. So I came down by 1.5 from the bust point and I connected it to the bust span. Then after doing that, I stroke it by indicating that I'm going to take it off. Okay, so from the waist, I divided it by 2 and I marked the midpoint, then I drew a straight line. But I realized that the lines were no longer equal, so I erased it and I took the measurement of the measurement between the dart and the center where I marked the midpoint of the waist. I took that measurement and I placed it at the hip measurement as well, so as to have a straight line. And then I connected it together and I took it up as well. So after doing this, I took 0.5 inch on both sides, 0.25, that is quarter of an inch. I took it on both sides, which is supposed to give me half an inch, which I added to the waist after adding the 2 inches dart. So that was what I did, and after doing that I connected it to the top and also connected to the hip as well, and then I stroke it to indicate that this part will be taken off. It is representing the dart. So after doing this, now I'll be coming up to my over bust to take my measurement. So I measured 0.75 on both sides of the point where I marked my 2 inches line, which I drew earlier. I connected it to the bust point. Okay, so because I wanted to achieve a sweetheart neckline, although I didn't want it to be so deep, I just came down by 0.5 from the line I drew before, that is my over bust line. I came down by it and I connected it with a curve, that is from the dart point I connected down to with a curve. So I took the measurement of the first dart from the over bust line to the bust point and I had 4 inches. Then I measured it on the second side, which is the side facing the side front. I measured it and it was over 4 inches. So one of the best ways to actually get equal measurement is for you to fold the dart and ensure that they meet on the line. So mine was not meeting on the line after folding it, so I took the exact 4 inches measurement which I got from the first side and I marked it on that line. Then I connected it from the new point I marked to meet the armhole. Actually, I came down from the armhole measurement by 0.5. I came down by 0.5 and then I connected that curve to meet at that 0.5 below the armhole. This is to help the bustier sit properly. It's to help the bustier sit properly. Okay, so I connected it with a curve just like I did here. So now what I did is I took the 0.5 inches which I took for the dart at one side of the over bust dart, and I connected it back to the shoulder line because this is going to be taken off. So I connected it with the shoulder line just like this. Then I use it to draw a new armhole. Okay, I drew a new armhole with it, and after doing that I used my marker to make it very visible. So I also went ahead to make the curves that I drew earlier, the bustier curves, I make them visible with my marker so that you can actually see them. So after this, I also connected the dart lines with my marker to make them very visible. Okay, now so for us to get the funnel corset, for us to get that, I came down from my bust point by half an inch. I came down by half an inch from the bust point. Actually, note that the bustier is actually meant to stay on top. That is, the funnel corset is meant to stay under the over bust. It's meant to stay under the over bust. So it's meant to cut through and meet at the armhole, just like I'm doing right now. I connected the 0.5. I came down from my bust point to meet the bust span, and from that point I connected it to meet the armhole, which I just did right now. So I used the green marker to make us indicate it, that's to know the difference between the bustier and the funnel corset. So after doing that, I came to my corset line. The corset line, I came from the side front. I came up by 0.75 and then I connected it to meet the line like that. I didn't want it to be too curvy, I don't want it to be too short, so this is how I did it. You can do it the way you want it, is fine. So after doing this, I'll just go ahead and cut it out. Okay, if you have a tracing wheel, you can use that to trace it on another pattern paper and cut it out, but I'm going to be using this same pattern paper to do to get my bustier and to get my funnel corset. Okay, so after that I slashed open the shoulder line that I drew before, just for me to be able to connect my bust dart. So after doing that, I closed down the bust dart, and when I closed it, I connected it well to have a straight line at the side. So after doing this, I'll just go ahead and cut out the pieces that I'll be using. So you can watch me carefully so as to ensure you cut it accurately. Okay, so when I was done cutting it, I went ahead to label it center front, side front 1 and side front 2. Then I took it aside and brought the pattern paper for the back pattern. So the back pattern is quite easier. You just have to go through the same process of marking your shoulder measurement divided by 4. From there, I came down by 1 inch and I marked my armhole depth. Then after doing that, I connected it with a straight line, and also from that point I marked my chest line. So at that point I took my bust circumference divided by 4 and I marked it on the chest line. Then I went down to the waistline, divided my waist measurement actually divided by 4. After marking it, I added 2 inches, which I'm going to be using for that. Okay, so I added 2 inches to it. Then for the hip measurement, I divided it by 4 as well, and I marked it there. So after doing that, I connected them together, waist to hip and then the hip to the chest line as well. So now after doing this, I'll be coming to the center back. I'm coming to the center back to take out the part I'll be using for my lacing. So from the chest line I marked 2 inches, then from the waistline I marked 1.5, and then from the corset line I marked 1 inch. So I did this because I didn't want my lacing bar or the corset at the corset lacing at the back to be straight. I wanted it to have this slant shape, and that was what I did. Okay, so for the corset length, just like I did in the front, I came down from the waist by 5 inches to get my corset line. And then from that side back of the corset line, I came up by 0.5 inches, which I connected like that. So for the waist dart, which I'm going to be taking, I said I was going to use 2 inches for the waist. So I divided this waistline into 3 equal parts. From the line where I drew for my corset length down to the waist measurement, I shared it into 3 equal parts, and I took 0.5 inch on both sides, which I connected with a straight line. Then after connecting with a straight line, I also connected them like this to meet the corset length at the down and to meet the chest line at the top. After doing this, I slashed it to indicate the dart which I'll be taking off. So after that, I went ahead to draw some small circles around the lacing side to indicate that that is where my corset lacing is going to be. So from the center back, I came down by 0.75 and I connected it to meet the point where my armhole is going to be. So after doing that, I went ahead to cut it out. Please take note that the shoulder to waist for the front and back are not the same. For my front, I used 16.5 and the back I used 15 inches, which gave me a difference of 1.5, which I used for the bust dart. When I was done cutting, I went ahead to label it center back, side back 1 and side back 2, and I also used some arrows to indicate the point where I'll be joining. So this is my front and back pattern which I have cut out, and this is the fabric I'll be using to make this corset. So I've already gone ahead to cut them down. So what I did was that I cut the bustier part first, and after cutting it out on the fabric and the lining, I went ahead to cut out the funnel corset aspect, and I cut it out as well. So if you look at it, I just went ahead to cut the bustier first before I slashed it out with from the green line that I marked. Then I used it to cut the funnel corset. Then I went ahead to cut the back pieces. So I cut the front and the back. Okay, we have come to the end of this pattern drafting tutorial. In my next video, I'll be showing us how I went ahead to sew this corset. So if you find this tutorial very helpful, please ensure to like, comment and share, and please also subscribe to our channel. Also leave your notification bell turned on so that you can be notified when the next video is uploaded. Once again, thank you for stopping by. See you in my next tutorial.